The power of self-education, feeding the mind that feeds your future. If you ever wonder why some people seem to rise so quickly while others stay stuck year after year, it's not luck, it's learning. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in stocks, not in real estate, not even in business, it's in your own mind. Because everything you'll ever create, achieve, or become will come from what you know and what you believe. You can't operate on information you don't have, and you can't grow from wisdom you never seek. That's why the difference between average and extraordinary is often found in what you choose to feed your mind daily. Most people stop learning after school. They think education ends when the degree is in their hand, when the teacher stops calling their name. But true education, the kind that builds wealth, power, and purpose, begins when life starts testing you. You see, school teaches you lessons and then gives you a test. But life gives you the test first, and then it teaches you the lesson. That's why you've got to be your own teacher. You've got to wake up every morning and ask yourself, what am I learning today that makes me better than I was yesterday? Every successful person you admire is a student before they are a master. They read when others sleep. They listen to wisdom when others gossip. They take notes when others complain. They study their craft, their purpose, and themselves. They understand that the mind is like soil. Whatever seed you plant will grow. If you plant distractions, confusion, and negativity, that's what your life produces. But if you plant learning, discipline, and truth, your life produces harvest, abundance, and clarity. So, ask yourself today, what seeds are you sowing into your own mind? There is no breakthrough without wisdom. There is no elevation without education. You can pray for success all you want, but if your mind is not ready to receive the answer, you will miss what God is trying to give you. That's why knowledge is not just power. Knowledge is preparation. It prepares you for what you've been praying for. Many people are asking for million-dollar opportunities with $10 mindsets. They want promotion but reject preparation. They want increase but avoid improvement. But God doesn't bless laziness, He blesses readiness. And readiness comes from daily learning, from building your wisdom one decision, one page, one lesson at a time. When you commit to self-education, you separate yourself from the crowd. You become dangerous to mediocrity. You stop following the noise and start hearing the voice of wisdom. You start making choices not based on impulse but on understanding. You begin to see opportunities where others see problems. Why? Because your mind has been trained to think differently. Every new thing you learn is a tool in your spiritual and mental toolbox. And the more tools you have, the more problems you can solve, the more value you can create, and the more abundance you attract. But here's what you've got to know. Learning isn't just about books or courses. It's about awareness. You can learn from every situation, every conversation, every success, and every failure. Every experience is a teacher if you have the humility to listen. The moment you think you know it all, that's the moment your growth stops. Pride closes the door to new revelation, but humility opens your mind to divine instruction. When you position yourself as a lifelong learner, God keeps revealing new levels of wisdom because He can trust you with it. You've got to become obsessed with growth. If you can spend hours scrolling through social media, you can spend 30 minutes feeding your mind something that builds you. Read the kind of books that challenge your thinking. Listen to voices that stretch your mindset. Watch content that inspires your discipline. Stop saying, I don't have time. You do have time. You're just giving it to the wrong things. Replace entertainment with education. Replace distraction with development. Because every day you waste not learning is a day your potential stays locked up inside you. When you start educating yourself daily, your confidence changes. You walk differently because knowledge brings certainty. You speak with authority because wisdom gives you weight. You stop chasing validation because you're rooted in understanding. You stop getting intimidated by others because you know you're building your value every day. You begin to respect your own time, protect your peace, and guard your growth because you know your mind is your greatest asset. The truth is, the world is changing faster than ever before, and ignorance is expensive. Every skill you refuse to learn costs you opportunities. Every truth you ignore keeps you stuck. And every day you fail to grow, the world moves ahead without you. But here's the good news, it's never too late to start. Whether you're 18 or 80, you can reprogram your life through learning. Every book you open is a door. Every idea you absorb is a bridge. Every principle you apply becomes a seed of transformation that compounds over time. See, when you learn something new, you don't just change your mind, you change your world. Because your world is a reflection of your understanding. If your understanding grows, your world expands. That's why people who keep learning keep winning. They don't let their current success stop them from gaining new insight. They don't settle for good enough. They keep sharpening their sword because they know every new level requires a new version of themselves. And that's the challenge for you today, to become a student of success, a seeker of truth, a servant of wisdom. Don't wait for someone to hand you knowledge. Go get it. Read, study, observe, ask questions, meditate, and grow. Every day, educate yourself on something that feeds your destiny, your purpose, your finances, your relationships, your faith, your mindset. Because what you feed grows, and what you starve dies. If you feed your excuses, your limitations will grow. But if you feed your knowledge, your power will grow. Don't educate yourself just to look smart. Educate yourself to live smart. Learn not just to speak well, but to make wise decisions. Learn not just to impress people, but to improve yourself. Learning is not for show, it's for transformation. The more you learn, the more you can lead, serve, and create. So, decide today that you will no longer drift through life waiting for someone to teach you. Become your own teacher, your own mentor, your own student. Let every sunrise remind you that you've got another day to learn, to grow, and to build the future you were born for. Because the truth is, your mind determines your measure. You can't outgrow your understanding, but you can always expand it. And the more you expand your mind, the bigger your life becomes. Educate yourself daily, and watch how the doors of opportunity, creativity, and abundance start to open effortlessly, not because life changed, but because you did. Turning knowledge into power, applying what you learn every day. Knowledge alone doesn't change your life applied, knowledge does. You can read all the books in the world, attend every seminar, listen to every motivational message, but if you don't take what you've learned and put it into motion, it becomes spiritual clutter. Knowledge is like a seed. It only bears fruit when it's planted, watered, and nurtured through action. Too many people are spiritual librarians. They collect information but never experience transformation. They talk about what they know but don't live by what they've learned. Real power isn't in knowing, it's in doing. Every single day you wake up, you're standing on the edge of potential and performance. What you know determines what's possible, but what you do determines what's real. You see, there are two kinds of people, consumers and creators. Consumers gather information and feel good about what they've heard. Creators take that same information and use it to build something meaningful. The difference between the two isn't intelligence, it's execution. You can't think your way into success. You've got to act your way there. When you apply knowledge, it becomes wisdom. When you apply wisdom, it becomes transformation. And that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens every time you make a decision to live what you've learned. Every principle that you practice rewires your habits, reshapes your thinking, and redefines your destiny. That's why consistency is more powerful than intensity. Anyone can be excited for a moment, but the ones who change their lives are the ones who turn inspiration into daily discipline. Think about it. How many times have you heard a truth that stirred your soul, but a week later you were back to your old patterns? It's not because the truth lost its power. It's because you didn't anchor it through action. A seed can only grow in the soil of obedience. You can't expect revelation to work for you if you won't work with it. The universe, God, and life itself reward not the hearers of wisdom, but the doers of it. Every small act of obedience, every moment you decide to apply what you know, compounds into results that last. So what does it mean to apply knowledge daily? It means you don't just read about faith, you practice faith when fear shows up. You don't just learn about focus, you use it when distractions call your name. You don't just study discipline, you apply it when your feelings say, not today. Application is the bridge between potential and purpose. Every time you live what you've learned, you build a bridge from theory to reality. And the more bridges you build, the further you travel in life. Knowledge gives you vision, but action gives you results. And vision without action is nothing but a fantasy. You've got to turn that vision into a plan, that plan into motion, and that motion into momentum. The beautiful thing about action is that it teaches you in ways books never can. Once you start doing, you begin to see things differently. You realize that the real lessons are learned in the process, not just in the preparation. You start understanding that failure isn't the opposite of learning, it's the proof that learning is happening. Because every time you take action, even if it doesn't go as planned, you gain insight, experience, and strength. The world doesn't reward people who know, it rewards people who act. You don't get paid for the information in your head, you get paid for the transformation you create with it. You could study business all day, but until you start selling something, serving someone, or building something, that knowledge remains potential energy. You could study leadership for years, but until you start leading, that knowledge is like a weapon left unloaded. There's power sitting inside you waiting for activation, and the only way to activate it is through movement. Application is also about alignment. You've got to align what you know with what you do and who you are. Too many people live in disconnection. They speak wisdom but live in confusion. They understand purpose but walk in distraction. But when your actions match your knowledge, that's when integrity and power collide. You stop being divided and start being whole. You stop living in contradiction and start living in conviction. And that conviction gives your life clarity, direction, and strength. Let's make it practical. You don't need to apply everything at once. Start small, but be consistent. If you learn one principle a day, live it out that same day. Read a truth in the morning and apply it by afternoon. Hear something empowering and practice it before sunset. Turn learning into living, and soon living becomes leading. The more you act on what you know, the more natural growth becomes. You don't have to force change. It starts happening automatically because your actions start aligning with your evolution. The greatest gap in human potential is the gap between knowing and doing. Most people are educated far beyond their obedience. They know how to fix their life, but they don't apply it. They know what's holding them back, but they don't change it. They know what they should do, but they don't discipline themselves to do it. But the moment you close that gap, the moment you make a decision that what you know will now become how you live, that's when the magic begins. That's when success stops being a mystery and starts being a formula. The truth is, God doesn't give you revelation to entertain your intellect. He gives it to elevate your life. Every lesson you learn has a purpose to grow you, strengthen you, and prepare you for the next level. But if you refuse to apply it, you'll stay circling the same mountain year after year, wondering why nothing changes, because unacted knowledge becomes spiritual weight. It burdens your mind, but never blesses your life. Application releases that weight and turns learning into freedom. So, decide today that you won't just be a collector of ideas, you'll be a carrier of impact. When you hear something powerful, ask yourself, how can I live this? When you read something that moves you, say, where can I apply this? Don't let truth pass through your ears without passing through your actions. Take notes, but take steps. Study principles, but also practice them, because every act of application is an act of transformation. When you apply what you know, life begins to trust you. Opportunities begin to appear because life rewards responsibility. The more you live what you've learned, the more you attract situations that match your new mindset. You stop chasing success and start becoming the kind of person success chases. You stop looking for miracles and start living in the flow of divine alignment, because wisdom in action is faith in motion. So from this day forward, don't just learn for the sake of knowing, learn for the sake of growing. Every lesson you've received is a call to action. Every principle you've been shown is an invitation to live higher. Take what's in your mind and make it visible in your habits, in your speech, in your relationships, and in your results. That's how you turn knowledge into power, by living what you learn until your life itself becomes the lesson. Educating yourself beyond comfort, growing in the unknown. Growth begins the moment comfort ends. Most people never become who they were created to be because they confuse comfort with peace. They stay in what feels familiar and call it stability, but it's really stagnation. The mind cannot expand in ease. It only stretches when challenged. Education, real education, isn't about memorizing information. It's about transformation. And transformation demands discomfort. You can't evolve while staying wrapped in what you already know. If you want to rise higher, you've got to be willing to walk into rooms that intimidate you, learn subjects that challenge you, and confront truths that make you uncomfortable. Every time you decide to learn something new, you declare war on your limitations. You tell your old self, you don't run this anymore. The reason many people stop growing is because growth hurts their pride. It reminds them that they don't know everything. But humility is the gateway to wisdom. You have to be willing to look foolish before you can become wise. You have to be willing to be a beginner before you can become a master. Education in the unknown requires courage, not because it's dangerous, but because it exposes how small you've been thinking. When you step into new learning territory, you feel resistance, fear, self-doubt, insecurity. That's not a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that you're expanding. Your comfort zone has walls, And every time you push against them, it feels uncomfortable because you're stretching past the old version of you. The unknown is where God hides your next level. The lessons that will elevate you aren't in the places you already dominate. They're in the places that challenge your perspective, your habits, and your belief in yourself. If you want to grow beyond the average, you must learn beyond the average. You have to read what most won't read, study what most ignore, and practice what most quit on. Every area of ignorance becomes an area of vulnerability. Every area of understanding becomes an area of strength. So ask yourself, what don't you know that's keeping you where you are? Because you can't fix what you don't understand, and you can't understand what you refuse to study. Educating yourself beyond comfort also means exposing yourself to people who know more than you. Too many individuals stay surrounded by mediocrity because it makes them feel superior. But the truth is, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need environments that stretch your intellect and challenge your thinking. Iron sharpens iron, and growth sharpens purpose. The right mentors, teachers, and books don't make you feel comfortable, they make you feel convicted. They awaken something in you that says, I can't stay like this. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and innovators are lifelong students. They don't just collect knowledge, they chase mastery. They're addicted to learning because they know that ignorance is expensive. Every missed opportunity, every bad decision, every delayed dream, it all comes from not knowing what you needed to know at the time. The price of staying the same is always higher than the price of learning something new. So never say, I can't afford to learn. Say, I can't afford not to. When you choose to educate yourself daily, you activate divine momentum. Knowledge multiplies when you use it. You start connecting ideas faster, making better decisions, and seeing patterns others miss. The unknown becomes less intimidating because you realize the more you know, the more capable you are of facing what's next. And when you walk in wisdom, life starts responding differently to you. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Conversations shift, opportunities appear. Why? Because you're no longer operating at your old frequency of ignorance. You're vibrating at the level of understanding. But here's the thing, learning beyond comfort isn't just about external knowledge, it's about internal discovery. You must also educate yourself about you, your patterns, your triggers, your fears, your gifts. The mind that doesn't study itself becomes enslaved to itself. You can't master your environment until you've studied your own emotions. You can't lead others until you understand your own weaknesses. So study your reactions, your failures, your victories, your habits. Every experience is a classroom, and life is the teacher. But if you never reflect, you'll never truly learn. Stepping into the unknown also means trusting that you'll find your footing as you go. Faith is a form of education. It teaches you that not knowing everything is okay as long as you're willing to move forward anyway. When you walk by faith, you begin to see that uncertainty isn't your enemy, it's your invitation to depend on something greater than logic. The unknown is not darkness, it's the soil where destiny grows. Every great breakthrough in your life will happen after you've stepped into something you didn't fully understand but had the courage to face anyway. There's a divine equation that says, exposure plus application equals expansion. The more you expose yourself to new knowledge and apply it through disciplined action, the more your capacity grows. Suddenly, things that used to confuse you become simple. What once scared you becomes normal. You start thinking on a higher level, operating with more confidence, and making moves with more precision. That's the reward for walking through discomfort wisdom that feels like instinct. When you educate yourself beyond comfort, you also learn to outgrow your excuses. Every time you learn something new, you eliminate one more reason to stay stuck. Ignorance breeds procrastination. Understanding breeds acceleration. When you know what to do, you stop wasting time wondering how things will happen. You move with intention, you act with clarity. You start seeing that the same energy it takes to complain could be used to comprehend. The same time it takes to worry could be spent learning. So stretch your mind. Read books that challenge your worldview. Study subjects that make you think harder than you want to. Listen to people who make you uncomfortable in a good way because they remind you of what you could become if you grew up mentally and spiritually. Don't limit your learning to what's easy. Greatness is born in difficulty. Every subject that frustrates you at first is preparing you for the complexity of your calling. The person who educates themselves beyond comfort becomes unstoppable because they've learned how to function in uncertainty. They don't panic when things change because they've trained their mind to adapt. They don't quit when they don't understand everything because they've learned how to learn. And that's the ultimate superpower, not knowing everything, but knowing how to learn anything. So don't fear the unknown, study it. Don't avoid discomfort, grow through it. Every new concept you grasp, every new skill you master, every new truth you accept is another step away from limitation and another step toward liberation. Because education isn't just about knowing more, it's about becoming more. And becoming more always requires leaving who you were behind. When you make growth your lifestyle, you stop being a victim of change and start becoming a creator of destiny. So today, make the decision to educate yourself beyond comfort, not for a grade, not for applause, but for greatness. Because the world doesn't belong to the comfortable, it belongs to those who are courageous enough to keep learning in the unknown. Discipline of the mind, training yourself to think like a leader. The greatest battlefield you'll ever face is not in the world around you, it's in the space between your ears. Your mind determines everything, your actions, your habits, your results, your destiny. If you win in your mind, you'll win in your life. If you lose in your mind, you've already lost before you ever start. That's why discipline of the mind isn't optional, it's essential. You can't think like a follower and expect to live like a leader. You can't entertain small thoughts and expect to experience a big destiny. You have to train your mind to think on the level you want to live. Most people are not limited by their potential, they're limited by their thinking. They've built mental walls around what's possible for them, and those walls become their prison. You can't build an extraordinary life with ordinary thoughts. Every level of success requires a new level of thinking. You don't just grow by doing more, you grow by thinking better. The mind is a muscle. It has to be trained daily. Just like you train your body to get stronger, you train your thoughts to get sharper. You see, discipline of the mind begins with awareness. You have to notice what's living rent-free in your head. What thoughts are you entertaining every day? Are they empowering you or weakening you? Because the truth is, your thoughts are not neutral. Every thought is either building you or breaking you. The thoughts you allow become the beliefs you accept. The beliefs you accept become the actions you repeat, and the actions you repeat become the life you live. So if you don't like your life, trace it back to your thoughts. A leader's mindset is disciplined. It doesn't drift. It doesn't dwell on distractions. It focuses on direction. It's intentional about what it thinks, what it listens to, and what it believes. Discipline of the mind means saying, I don't have time for negativity. I don't have space for doubt. I don't have energy for comparison. Because every time you entertain those things, you lose focus on what God called you to do. You cannot feed your mind with garbage and expect greatness to come out. To train your mind like a leader, you must guard it like a treasure. What are you watching? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? Because everything you consume becomes mental fuel. If your mind is your engine, then every bit of content you allow in is either clean fuel or contamination. And if you've ever put the wrong fuel in a vehicle, you know what happens, it doesn't move right. The same is true for your mind. You can't feed it gossip, fear, and mediocrity and then expect wisdom, courage, and creativity to flow. A leader understands that thoughts are seeds. If you plant seeds of faith, you'll reap courage. If you plant seeds of gratitude, you'll reap peace. But if you plant seeds of fear, you'll reap paralysis. If you plant seeds of doubt, you'll reap delay. The soil of your mind will grow whatever you put in it. So choose wisely. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your mindset. Now, discipline doesn't mean you'll never have negative thoughts. It means you've trained yourself not to dwell on them. The mind of a leader acknowledges fear but doesn't bow to it. It recognizes doubt but refuses to feed it. You can't stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building a nest there. That's what mental discipline looks like, controlling the narrative inside your own head. Because if you don't manage your mind will manage you. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is to speak life to your mind daily. Don't let your thoughts run wild. Lead them. Command your mind. Tell it what to focus on. Every morning, declare what kind of day you're going to have before the day even begins. Today I think clearly. Today I walk in wisdom. Today I make sound decisions. Today I am disciplined, focused, and productive. Why? Because your mind listens to your words. You are programming your own mental operating system every time you speak. Leaders don't wait for motivation. They create it with disciplined thought and intentional speech. But discipline of the mind also requires stillness. You can't hear divine direction in a noisy mind. Every day, you need moments where you shut out the world and tune in to God's frequency. Meditation, prayer, reflection, these aren't luxury habits, they're leadership necessities. The world shouts, but wisdom whispers. And if you're always distracted, you'll miss the download that could change your entire life. When your mind is quiet, you can receive clarity, and clarity is power. Another key to mental discipline is consistency. You can't train your mind once a week and expect transformation. Discipline must be daily. Every single day, you have to renew your mind. Replace old limiting beliefs with new empowering ones. Repetition is the mother of mastery. Whatever you repeat becomes automatic. So if you constantly think thoughts of excellence, eventually excellence becomes your default. Leaders train their minds to see opportunity in adversity. They've learned to flip the script. When challenges come, their first thought isn't, why me? It's, what's the lesson? Because a disciplined mind doesn't react emotionally, it responds intelligently. It knows that every setback carries a seed of growth. You can't control everything that happens, but you can always control how you think about it. That's what gives you power. And hear me, discipline of the mind is spiritual warfare. The enemy doesn't attack your bank account first, he attacks your belief system. Because if he can control your mind, he can control your life. That's why you have to be vigilant. Don't let lies live where truth should reign. Don't let fear sit on a throne that belongs to faith. Fill your mind with light, and darkness has no room to stay. You have to understand, the mind is the steering wheel of your destiny. If you don't take the wheel, your emotions will. And emotions make terrible drivers. They'll take you off course every time. Discipline teaches your emotions who's in charge. It says, I feel it, but I'm not ruled by it. That's leadership. Leadership begins when you master your own mind. So, train your thoughts like you train your body. Feed your mind with truth, stretch it with learning, challenge it with goals, rest it with reflection, and renew it with gratitude. Because when your mind is strong, everything else follows. Your words change, your actions align, your results multiply. Leaders aren't born with disciplined minds, they build them through repetition, reflection, and resilience. Through every decision to stay focused when it's easier to quit. Through every moment they choose patience over panic. Through every time they feed their faith instead of their fear. That's how you develop mental strength that cannot be shaken. When you train your mind to think like a leader, you no longer wait for circumstances to line up. You create alignment from within. You start thinking solutions, not problems. Progress, not excuses. Purpose, not pain. You become unstoppable because your mind is anchored in truth, focused on growth, and disciplined for greatness. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about how strong your body is or how much money you have. It's about how well you manage the space between your ears. Your mind is the command center of your life. Discipline it, and everything else falls into order. The power of daily growth, becoming a student of life forever. The moment you stop learning, you stop leading. The moment you stop growing, you start dying. Growth isn't something that happens once, it's something that happens daily. Every sunrise gives you another opportunity to stretch your mind, to sharpen your skills, and to elevate your understanding. But most people waste it. They wake up and repeat yesterday. Same thoughts, same routines, same excuses. And they wonder why their lives look the same year after year. The truth is, you can't live a new life with an old mind. Growth is not an event, it's a lifestyle. It's what separates the average from the extraordinary. A person committed to growth doesn't wait for motivation, they move with discipline. They wake up each day asking, what can I learn today that will make me better than I was yesterday? That's how greatness is built, not in giant leaps, but in small, consistent steps. The mountain of mastery is climbed one learning moment at a time. Every day you have to deposit something into your mind that expands your vision, increases your understanding, or strengthens your character. Because when you stop adding value to yourself, you start subtracting from your future. Life rewards those who are teachable. The proud resist learning because they think they already know enough, but the humble stay open, curious, and hungry. They understand that no matter how much they know, there's always another level. That's the difference between people who rise and people who remain. Those who rise keep learning. Those who remain stop. You see, knowledge is not just power, it's leverage. The more you learn, the more options you have. The more wisdom you gain, the better decisions you make. And the better your decisions, the greater your results. But let me tell you something, learning doesn't stop when school ends. In fact, real education begins when you take responsibility for your own growth. That's when you stop waiting for someone to teach you and start seeking wisdom for yourself. Read books that stretch your perspective. Listen to voices that challenge your comfort. Surround yourself with people who make you think bigger. Every person you meet, every situation you face, every failure you experience, all of it can teach you something if you're willing to learn. Growth isn't about collecting information, it's about transformation. Some people know a lot, but change very little. They're walking encyclopedias with no evolution. True learning shows up in your behavior, your mindset, and your results. If what you learn doesn't change how you live, you haven't learned anything yet. Knowledge without application is like a seed never planted. It looks full of potential but produces no fruit. You must plant what you learn, apply it, practice it, reflect on it. That's how wisdom is born, through experience and reflection. There's something powerful about being a lifelong student. It keeps you humble, it keeps you sharp, it keeps you young, because learning renews the mind and refreshes the soul. The more you learn, the more alive you feel. The more curious you become, the more wonder returns to your world. Learning reignites your imagination. It reminds you that there's always more to explore, more to understand, more to become. You never arrive, you just evolve. And when you commit to learning daily, life starts teaching you in unexpected ways. That argument that frustrated you, it's a lesson in patience. That deal that fell apart, it's a lesson in preparation. That season of struggle, it's a lesson in faith. Every experience is either a blessing or a lesson, and both are meant to grow you. That's why gratitude and growth go hand in hand. When you're thankful, you see meaning in your mistakes. When you're humble, you find wisdom in your wounds. But here's the key: growth requires discomfort. You can't expand while staying comfortable. Every time you stretch your mind, you'll feel resistance. That's normal. Growth hurts because it requires you to challenge what you believe, face what you fear, and step into what's unfamiliar. But that's where transformation happens. You'll never evolve if you keep running from what stretches you. You grow by leaning into the challenge, not avoiding it. The pressure you feel is proof you're progressing. And let's talk about time, because many people say they don't have time to learn. But time is not the problem. Priority is. You make time for what matters. If scrolling social media fits your schedule, so can growth. Even 20 minutes a day of focused learning can change your life over time. You don't need hours, you need consistency. 1 page a day, 1 podcast on the way to work, 1 moment of reflection before bed, it adds up. The secret to success isn't intensity, it's consistency. A growing mind becomes a guiding light. The more you know, the more you can serve. The more wisdom you gain, the more value you bring to others. Growth isn't just for you, it's for those you're called to impact. The lessons you learn become the blessings you give. You're not just learning for yourself, you're learning for your family, your community, your future. The wisdom you acquire becomes the foundation others stand on. That's why you must protect your growth environment. Don't surround yourself with people who mock ambition, who belittle dreams, or who make excuses for staying the same. Stay around people who stretch you, challenge you, and celebrate your growth. Iron sharpens iron. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need voices that provoke your potential, because growth happens in environments where truth is spoken, not where comfort is coddled. Now, let's get real. Daily growth also requires reflection. Learning without reflection leads to confusion. You can't just keep consuming, you must also contemplate. Take time to pause and ask, what did I learn today? How can I apply it tomorrow? Where do I need to improve? Reflection turns information into revelation. It's how lessons become part of who you are. And hear this, growth is spiritual. When you expand your understanding, you're honoring the Creator who gave you the mind to think and the heart to grow. God designed you to learn, evolve, and multiply what He's given you. Every new insight, every lesson learned is a way of glorifying Him through your development. You don't just grow for success, you grow to fulfill your divine purpose. When you stop growing, you're not just limiting your career, you're limiting your calling. So never stop learning, never stop reading, never stop asking questions, never stop observing life. Because every day you wake up is another chance to become a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more aware of who God made you to be. Life will never stop teaching, so don't ever stop being a student. Every great leader, every innovator, every achiever you admire, they all share one trait. They're obsessed with learning. They don't wait for opportunities to grow, they create them. They study the patterns of success, the principles of faith, and the lessons of failure. They understand that everything they learn becomes a tool for tomorrow. If you truly want to rise to your potential, make personal growth your priority. Not once a month, not when it's convenient, every day. Because when you grow daily, you change gradually, and when you change gradually, one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. You'll see that every book, every course, every quiet moment of reflection, every challenge you faced, it was all building the person you were meant to become. Be a student of life forever. Seek wisdom like treasure. learn from the past, prepare for the future, and be fully alive in the present. Growth is the proof that you're still becoming. And the day you stop growing is the day you stop truly living. So educate yourself every day and watch how knowledge turns into confidence, how understanding turns into influence, and how wisdom turns into destiny. Because when you commit to daily growth, you don't just build a better life, you build a better you.